Hello. So, Damien, I've read that poem 100 times in my lifetime so far, but I think you read it so incredibly beautifully. So thank you for honoring those words. And now I'm all emotional. But truly, what we celebrate today are the eyes of the mother that we see looking back at us through nature, through one another, through the heart of compassion. So these little butterflies are in representation of the Divine Mother. So I want every woman to take one and hold it dear, to honor your own mother, and if you're a mother, to honor your motherhood and your children. But the secret of this whole talk is the message on the little swan. So if you're a man and you want to know the secret, you have to ask, and you'll receive. So that being said, the talk today is a talk that is interesting for me to give. It's called Fear to Courage, that creative urge, fear to courage. And this talk comes from the understanding of our values, because remember, that's what we are pointing to throughout this year, is really honoring the values with which we choose to live. And so the creative process itself is something that in our teaching we speak to a lot, okay? So that is also infused with the concept, it is done unto you as you believe. But in the creative mind, Ernest Holmes says this: we are dealing with a power which in itself is limitless, but we limit it. So it cannot become to us this greater thing. Of itself, the power is the same that made all the worlds, and it cannot realize any sense of limitation on its own. So the invitation today is for us to stop limiting things. Things are as big as we make them, no more, no less. There's no room at the top, or there is room at the top. See, I just limited it. There's room at the top. Get on top of everything and dare to dominate the earth. All things are given to us to use. Make use of them. Everything is limitless, and we must see the truth that the fault is not in the law. The fault is not in God's nature, but it is in ourself when we fail. Not with God, but with man. And then he says, dare, dare, dare. Dare, dare, double dare. So my invitation to you is, as I speak, is to call back into your banks of memory a time when you stopped yourself from truly believing and how truly powerful you are. Think back on that, because this idea I'm going to share with you in the first talk, a little bit different at the 10:30, but the first one I took the information from Eric Butterworth's The Creative Life, and I am so impressed by his wisdom that he starts in this particular book. He calls it the 7 Keys to Your Inner Genius. What's so special about this, and I hope for you as for me, that when I hear words, a lot of times I'm so used to saying certain words and certain feelings around those words. And so when I've had the invitation to be impressed by the days of creation in the Bible, and it said, let there be light, you think, oh yeah, light, let there be light. And then there was no light, then there was light. But I'm going to approach it from a different point of view. There's something deeper and more profound that Eric Butterworth brings to our awareness about this light. So, and God said, let there be light, and there was light in the beginning of all time. But I'm referring to light this time in terms of insight into yourself, guidance. So, before I go there, I want you to recognize also something that in all the reading I've done, because of this word, fear to courage, And all of the talks, even in the Course of Miracles, there's nothing to fear but fear itself, and there's just love, and the other emotion is fear. And even Ernest Holmes speaks a lot about fear, and the word fear can be so self-limiting. But there's another experience of fear that I want you to feel, and it's this free, floating kind of fear. This was what impressed me so much as I was preparing for this. My free, floating fear, what is that? It is really, truly harmless. And it is what guides us and keeps us so alert. It is that force of God within us that keeps us attentive and in touch with the world that's going on as we just ride that. And I leap to another aspect of this from Eckhart Tolle, because I was watching one of his videos, and the question came to him about fear. And he said, oh, keep it down here. Keep it down here. And I thought, what's that mean, keep it down here? I got a lot of it. That's where I feel it. And I want it out. But he said, don't let it come up into the mind, where the mind starts to attach all of our sticky thoughts to it and starts to tell us, this isn't what you're supposed to be thinking. This is where you got your fear. So one of my childhood ones, and I was practicing this in the shower this morning. Let me tell Mr. L'Esperance that I can sing. But there was this moment in my experience, 3rd grade, and we had to practice for the choir. And some of my people that have been in a class have heard this, and they're probably going, oh, here's the choir story. She can't sing. But it was America the Beautiful. And, oh, man, I would bellow that out at home. I was practicing and practicing and practicing. And then we had to line up around the piano, similar to this, and Mr. L'Esperance is playing it. My turn, and I get up, and I had that funny feeling. I was very much aware of I feel nervous. And so I gave it my all, and it must have been horrific because he had to stop and ask me to start over. That's all he did, was ask me to start over. But what did I do with that? And what story have I told for the rest of my life? I said, he embarrassed me, and maybe he was off key. Maybe it was him, but I don't know. The story I told myself was, I can't sing and I'll never sing again. That was so humiliating. And I can't carry a tune. I fed myself that story. So Eckhart Tolle is telling us, explore the fear, feel the emotion of fear, feel it, ride with it. It's free floating until you attach a suffering thought. You see that? It's so important as we move through as social, spiritual activists in this time on our planet. There's no mistake why we are here, why we have studied so diligently through a lifetime to know a greater truth and to be a greater spiritual being. So, in that respect, think often of your own story as we share this idea of light in the terms of insight into ourselves, this guidance, this illumination, so to speak. So we are co-creating with God. So if you truly are a disciple of the One, and you're asking yourself, I truly surrender, I surrender to the One, and allow yourself to be a conduit then of this divine grace. You are then called forth to be the light of the world. Oh, I'm the light of the world. So you do a prayer of light. You do a prayer treatment that centers you in this idea of light. And you pray from the consciousness of this omnipresent light. You pray from this idea of the consciousness of God. Let there be light. Let there be illumination. Let there be understanding in my way. Let me see it from within with such clarity. Eric Butterworth says, God is not a person to whom we should pray, but a spirit by which we should live. We want to know ourselves as living, breathing, this God divine source of energy. and become a conduit of that. Emerson also says, when we have broken with the God that the traditions and ceased from the God of the intellect, then God fires us up with his presence and the outstreaming of light of creativity. That's the God we want. That's the God that we want to feel. And we want to see ourselves from this place of consciousness. You want to see with light. You want to see with light. So our meditations, our spiritual practices, our prayers are asking us to begin our creative urge, to begin it right there, because we are all the expressions of this divine mind. So I've asked you, I've invited you to think back when you were thwarted in your creativity and your self-expression. And as a child, just prior to when you engaged so wholeheartedly in what you were doing, but something outside yourself embarrassed you or shut you down. You shut down at that moment your light. Can you feel that? You shut down the light of understanding because God was always right there with you. You were always, always in the presence of the One. So think about this, the invitation of this creative urge. You're entering into an idea. It's percolating in you. It's pure. It's pure, and it's flowing up through you. And inside of you, you feel this deep, wise silence beckoning you. So this is in those moments in your stillness, in the moments of the night when you're so calm and you're just waking up in these off and on through dreams or not, but there's a stillness of the consciousness, a wisdom that you need to know that you can tap into that because there's a light of understanding there. There is inside of you a deep and wise silence. And inside that as well, you might hear a calling. And then right after the calling comes this idea of fear. I can't do that. I'm not strong enough. I'm not wise enough. I'm not bold enough. Ride with it. That's just an emotion. Ride with it. So you don't create that emotion into a mood of anxiety or worry. Then it starts to taint itself. But at first it's just alerting you. Why is that here? Why am I feeling a little on edge? Is something from the outer trying to influence me? I choose right here to outline my way of illumination with something more true, more real, beyond the outer, and stay within and stay with truth. I trust. I have faith. I have more faith than I have fear that as I hold true to the light that is stirring in me, as I keep that signal purely lit and stay connected, my creativity flows through me with God's encouragement, with God's wisdom, with God's way. So the invitation here, this is where Ernest Holmes has invited us time and again, be in the idea, knowing that there's only God and that you are absolutely connected to God, those first two steps of our prayer. God is, I am. God is, I am. God is what? And you are what? You are naming it. You are the one experiencing the wisdom that flows from that. So in the Science of Mind text, Ernest Holmes says, we are immersed in the atmosphere of our own thinking. And this is the direct result. We can't help it. It's the direct result of all that has ever been said, thought, or done. We can't help but feel our mind wander into those things, those ideas. This decides what is to take place in our lives. You recognize the power of thought will attract what is like itself and repels what is unlike. So this is Ernest Holmes, most of the inner processes of our thought have been unconscious. They've been innocent. But if we don't turn to them and address them as the parent, as the wise one, as the intuitive one, as the God one, and really pluck out the ones that are causing us our suffering, then we continue to manifest some of the unpleasant or shallow experiences in our lives. So we want to understand this law. It is done unto us as we believe. We learn to consciously embody what we wish and think of this only and feel ourselves drawn silently, powerfully towards it. So I'm going to give you some tools from Eric Butterworth. First, a story that he shares. Because think about this again, that fear is only a belief in limitation. There is the free-floating, natural fear, a God grace of fear that allows us to have wisdom and attune our mind into what needs to be addressed before us. For example, if you're not understanding that, let me share, like as if you're driving, you automatically adjust mirrors to turn your blinkers, and you're following a place of protection, right? You're guiding yourself, making sure that everything around you is safe. That's the free-floating fear, not attached to anything in the mind, but allows you to be protected. So, listen to this story from Eric Butterworth. He says, "You have always thought of the eyes as the windows by which we see the world around us, but perhaps that's not truly how we see." So I'll slow this down a little bit because I read this so many times, and we're so used to our habit ways of thinking and receiving, even what I'm telling you right now. But think now of looking through your eyes, windows of the soul, from a whole new place, from deep inside the heart of your being. And he refers to a story, an article by Jacques Lucirand. And he gives this insight into the process of seeing, and it is titled Blindness, a New Seeing of the World. The author tells of a story how he lost his eyesight at age 8. He was a brilliant student, increasingly disturbed by the absence of any recognition and education that the world is not just outside us, it is also within. He describes the experience of becoming blind and having the frightening challenge of finding his way between the doors and walls, people and trees. But early on, he made a discovery that though he could not see the light of the world outside, the light was still within him. He found that as long as he paid attention to the light within him, he rarely had problems getting around. Now, how many of you have had yourself feel so clumsy in sudden darkness when electricity goes off? And I was visiting Reverend Andrea last week, and I had to get up in the night to use the restroom, and I was so disoriented, and I was like bumping into walls because it was dark. And I'm thinking, what's wrong with me? Why can't I walk? I can't even walk. I was banging into the walls like I had tied one on, and I'm thinking, what's wrong with me? Where's my balance? Where's my guidance? It's like I was looking outside myself. And had I tuned into the light within and been calm and just made my way. So this idea, he found as long as he paid attention to the light within himself, he rarely had problems getting around. And he also discovered that there was only one way to see this inner light, and that was through love. If he was ever overcome by sorrow or anger, if that anger ever took hold of him, or if he envied people, his light immediately decreased. Now, this is wisdom from one that didn't have the blessing of the outer eyesight. He had the blessing of the blindness. Do you see that? Skylar, our Linda Mitchell's son, Skylar, I have asked him many times, what do you see? He's blind, and I said, what do you see? And he shared with me sometimes the shadows of colors and some of the visions. And I'm so in awe because he gets around so gracefully and beautifully. And so I recognize this light that he sees with. He keeps it turned on. So Eric goes on to say that this gentleman said, he said that sometimes the light went out completely and then he really became blind. So when has the light gone out on you and you are truly blind to what is in the outer experience of your world? But the blindness was not the result of the loss of his vision. It was the result of the loss of loving. Oh my gosh, our planet in every continent is calling us into love. Calling us into love. We cannot afford to shut the light. So this calls for a new insight into love. Love is not an emotion. There's something deeper about something that we have named love. It's this agape love. It is this vast experience of love that we are referring to. It's not a commodity that we give and receive, nor can our lives be ruined or empty because we've been deprived of love. Love is neither learned nor taught. We are created in and of love. It is what we are. Eric Butterworth. We sometimes have mental blocks that impede this free flow of love in and through us, but we are creatures of this love. We need to discover what it is in our personalities that turns this off. What turns it off? And this gentleman, this blind gentleman, points out that we are the conduits. That's all we are. We're just the conduits of this divine flow of love, this divine flow of light, this love of the infinite. If the practice of allowing this form of light to precede all that you do, so you set your intentions in the day and you shed this light, this pure light. You allow your treatments, your prayers to shed this light on the intentions of your day. You see, you fill your intentions with love. I am the light of the world. What does that mean to you now? As I invite you into that place of creative urge to move from the sense of the stirring of fear, the stirring of spirit, awakening in you, calling you, asking you to touch your inner genius and to be in the world and help us make that connection. Make that connection with the one the moment your eyes open in the day. Contemplate your oneness. Contemplate it. It only takes a few seconds to take that time. And then before you create anything at all in your day, take a moment and offer it to the light and let it pave the way for you, this lighted path. Feel the vibrations, feel the stirring, feel that intuitive grace. That's your guidance. See it from the light within. See with this light. See with this light of the divine. Be confident in knowing that. As you project out into your world, following this flow of light, you're allowing this divine consciousness to influence you throughout the day. You see with the light, let there be light, and you follow. So the exercise I'm going to lead you in is one of Eric Butterworth's practices. So I invite you, 9 o'clock, sincere seekers of quietness. There's always this joke, even at Reverend Andrea's church, the 9 o'clockers, pretty quiet, pretty deep. And as a speaker, speaking into that silence is an interesting moment, because I have to keep the fear down here. If I let it go up here, it's going, is anybody asleep? Is this thing working? Are you with me? Are you with me? And I know we are. I know in that silence you're with me, because I know who you are, because I see you, and I see the journey that you've been on. I've been with you for so many years, and so I know the journey that you're on, and we're in it together, and we're following the same one light. So this exercise is for you to just close your eyes, to posture yourself as if to posture yourself into the dignity of the One. As you plant your feet and hold the pillar of your spine up high and you lift your heart and the mind lights up as brilliant as the flame of a candle. So brilliant and pure is that light. And so this invitation, let there be light. It's not that creation of light way back in time. It's focusing on the light that is ever present in you. Believe in that light as you sit tall and true to that inner self. Breathing into yourself. You breathe that one powerful knowing that God is. Hold it. God is. And on a next breath out, you can affirm, I am. And you hold that consciousness. In and out. God is, I am. God is, I am. God is, I am. And you merge with the light. You merge with the light. Stay there. God is, I am. Centered on the light, you become the light. And you're aware that you did not create the light, rather you are now synchronized and in this stream of light that is always, always everywhere present. It is the light within you. It has the courage. It has the faith to direct you, to lead you, to hold you, to guide you. God is, I am. And you survey your world. You survey your life today. Any contacts, any relationships? God is, I am. Hold it all in the light, one by one, as you treat every thought that follows with the treatment of the omnipresent light, the power of the divine flowing through you, leading you, guiding you. It is the light. It is the divine way. Feel it, the light of consciousness. You're immersed in it now. God is, I am. I bless my way. I bless those in my journey with this light. In the beginning, there was light. You see, you must surrender to the remembrance of the ancient truths that have long spoken to our hearts. Let there be light in all that you create. Let your participation guarantee that you are guided by this divine source. This whole infinite mind, this truth, this love that we speak and study so carefully, always day in and day out, finding our way, feeling the healing, trusting and knowing. It is the light. Let there be light. Let there be light on this planet right here, right now, as we send our prayers forth into all those that appear to be suffering, afraid, or frightened. Let every political leader feel that they are guided by a divine source of light that is infused with love. Let those we work with recognize that we walk with this agape love, that there is a divine light that is leading our hearts into theirs. Breathe that. Stay steadfast to that. And when your day is done, there is a moment where you simply and humbly say, thank you, God. Thank you. And so it is. I'll leave that there for you to hold in your heart. May you walk from this room seeing light and your fear in a whole different way. Let it propel you with the courage of who you are. Thank you.